Yay! I'm live. I have been live for some seconds now. Okay, cool. So we have the Morpheus 2 Raijintek cooler and this dremeled off Vega 64 base plate because the problem was that this was too tall to fit this. Yeah, you get the idea. That's not getting any better than that right now. It's too tall to fit this, so I chopped this off with a Dremel, as well as one other piece right there. So it's effectively like a single slot base plate instead of dual slot now. And the hope is that this will provide better cooling for the VRMs than this pile of small heat sinks that I had on there previously. So, with that being the case, since I already did a video last night, nothing has changed since then, we'll get started. And I certainly hope this music is, because it's old, within public domain and not a copyright infringement. It's classical music. All right, so let's bring this a little closer and get started wasting a ton of thermal grizzly cryonaut. Interesting, they don't put the type of paste on here. Cryonaut with on top of this. Because I don't own thermal pads, and this should work better in theory as well, as long as I add enough. I should probably get the screws ready as well, so that when this is attached, when this is close to being attached, I can just screw it in. I don't need to go hunting for screws. So the challenge I was facing was, where do I place the paste? Do I put it on here first, or do I put it on the components? I do think now it'd be a better idea to put it on the components. And judging by the construction of this, it looks like I'll just put some across these guys and across the VRMs, and and make sure I get that chip as well. Should just squish it down. Okay, let's double check this. Probably these as well. It's not clear whether these at the front are making contact or whether they need to be cooled. I'll add some paste. It probably is going to make contact with it. So yeah, this is going to create a huge mess if it ever needs taken off. But I'll shut up and start applying thermal paste, and hopefully the music will be audible to fill the silence. There we go. Let's do this. The goal here is too much paste. Direct the sound more towards the phone. I don't know if it's trying to filter that out. I certainly hope not. This is extraordinarily wasteful. Use thermal pads instead. I'm just too lazy to go hunt down the sizes and buy them and wait 2 days. I kind of just want this working. Yeah, and then I'll apply the paste on here for the raised components. These two do not make contact with anything. They're just air gapped. Whatever that is, looks like it... I'm not sure if that's there to prevent shorting or to provide cooling. This isn't conductive anyway, so why not? Thermal paste. Let's hope this works so that I never need to take this off. This is very messy. Thermal paste all the things for no good reason. At least this will be the most thermally conductive VRM on a Vega 64, probably. That may do it. I'm gonna just add extra in these wells, because small amount extra, because I am not 100% sure how much space is between the components and the top of this plate. There could be a significant amount of room in there, given that there were pads in there before. Is there anything else I wanted to be sure I cooled? Fan header. That guy probably doesn't need cooled. So why not? As logic follows. I'm just looking around. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and say that's hopefully enough. It's quite a lot of paste everywhere. I do want to make sure it gets the corners. Let's add much less than I have just put in, but just to the edges. I'm gonna try and line the sides of the base plate as well. It's an interesting experiment, actually. Since I know I won't be shorting anything out, worst case scenario is I don't add enough, which I think is now highly unlikely, and it overheats. Best case scenario is it's going to be a huge mess if I have to disassemble it. And just make sure we cool all the sides. No, the paste I put on here probably should have gone in just in the sides instead of in the center as well. That is okay. This is for science. There goes a $20 tube of Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut. I hope there's enough left in here for my CPU. I think there probably is. Yes, cooled, yes. All right, let's do it. Let's get a couple screws ready to attach this thing. I should probably... Oh, what's the best way to do this? This is in the way. Yeah, I'm gonna take this off, whatever that's called, the shield, I/O shield. I'm gonna take the I/O shield off, tip it upside down, attach it, then reattach the I/O shield. That is probably the best way to go about this. No, it's definitely not, actually. I won't be able to reattach the I/O shield once the base plate is on. I take that back. It's going to cover up those two screws. So I'll reattach that later. Let's just, guess I have no choice but just tip it upside down and try and be extremely accurate as I line these two up. I don't think this is too viscous of a liquid, or too not. I think it's quite viscous. That's the correct way to say that. Oh man, the suspense. Will this turn into a large mess, or will it? Well, it's already a large mess. Here, I'll put this down first. Then I'll hold it. I'll sandwich it together. Let's try and line up the holes so the first touch is the right one. Oh hey, look at that. And those are all meant to be on air. That's fine. I don't believe I forgot anything. It's too late now. So let's now hold this very carefully close to it. And at least, actually that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to hold this above the camera for a second. I'm going to screw this in from the bottom upside down before I do any turning. I'm going to add at least, actually if I can get all 4 screws in, now I can move the camera. If I can get all 4 screws in, that would be ideal. What a hack this is. All in the name of a couple degrees Celsius on the VRMs. Actually, I have a feeling it's going to be far more than just a couple degrees, because they were getting pretty toasty with the Raijintek heat sinks. Not because they're bad, but because it was of questionable mounting, and I wasn't making full contact. They really weren't designed for a Vega and for this particular board layout. That screw is being unpleasantly difficult. The others went in fine. It's not the wrong screw or anything. I have a feeling I just got some thermal paste in there, perhaps. Not totally sure though. Nope. All right, let's go back to another side. I'll try this one first. Is it aligned properly? It looks aligned properly. Okay, that's fine there. Let's take the 4th screw. See if this doesn't go in any easier. It does. Maybe these are different sizes? That went in surprisingly easily, and it's actually, yeah, that's not actually tightening. So, although these screws look almost identical, they apparently aren't. That one, yep, that was definitely a different threading. This is one of the same. Okay, going in fine for the most part. All right, time to clamp it down. Okay, the VRMs are synced, hopefully, if that was enough paste. I see a couple things that aren't making contact, which obviously and apparently did not need paste. The other stuff, though, does kind of look like it's... See, those are the 2 that didn't need any paste, but the other stuff is squishing out, which is a good sign. We added enough to make contact. I'm just trying to peek down the side of the card. Shockingly, I think I could have used more paste. Not like this isn't enough. It is making contact, but I think more wouldn't have hurt, actually. The VRMs are fine. It's the little components that were behind the VRMs that I'm a little unsure about. I assumed those would be almost making direct contact, but it's looking like they may not have. Or that might not have been how it was designed. Extremely hard to see. Might have needed to double up that paste as well. I guess, would it hurt to take this back off? I don't think it would. I'm wondering if I should take it back off and just add a little more. I'm trying to like line up the light so that I can see if there's any gaps. And this is one of those things that just would not show up on camera. Let's see what why don't we, again, just in the name of an experiment, see what it lined up as, maybe? I'm only hesitant to do this because I'm nearly out of paste, so I can't redo this. No, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to assume it's making enough contact until proven otherwise, because that was a ton of paste. And the VRMs are fine against only those tiny components I'm slightly concerned about, but I do think it's better than the partial contact I was making before with the Raijintek sinks. Where is that line? There's a line in here somewhere of paste. Yeah, you know what? Actually, it's not making contact. Only on the tiny components. I needed to double that up. So if I have enough left, I'm going to do that. Let's see exactly what happened under here. This will be really interesting, actually. It's worth it for the knowledge. Pretty soon I'll have a Lamborghini in my garage because knowledge and a book a day. I don't know if people are aware of... Oh, it worked! It worked! It's going back on before it drips everywhere. It worked. Yeah, it made... Sorry no one saw that. There was this huge dripping mess of thermal paste, but everything was making contact. And still is, so... Great. I'd love to take it back off to show you guys, but that's honestly not worth it right now because that was pretty scary as the whole mess started dripping everywhere. It's in the right spot. It works. I'm going to leave it alone and reattach this. I apologize for that anticlimactic event right there. For you. It was facing me. I love this song. I'm still working on getting the ending of it down. Ravel, Gaspard de la Nuit Ondine. It's insanely hard. Maybe I'll have to do some piano playing on the YouTube at some point. So I have a computer to play through. That looks like it worked beautifully, actually. So the VRMs and not the chokes are not on air. VRMs are very much heat sunk. Very good. All right, now the dye. Oh yeah, we need enough paste left over for the dye. Let me just clean that off. I think I touched it. I see a fingerprint. Clean it up one more time, and then I'll load that up with paste. Are you going to test? When are you going to test out Windows for your system? Once I have a graphics card back in it. But yes, soon. Hopefully as soon as this is done. Okay, and here's our beautiful Raijintek Morpheus base plate. Very shiny and smooth. For comparison, I know we saw that this was in another video, but I'll show it just because I have it out. Here's the stock Vega base plate that came. See those dents? Those were not me. This is how it came out of the factory. When I took it off, I found those 2 dents. So, yeah, not using that. Now, something with the Morpheus. First, let's remove the fans so it's a little more, a little less unwieldy. Okay, so I had added some spacers on the Morpheus cooler. Under here, there's little plastic washers, which should show up. Yeah, they're semi in focus. Right there, they're under here. So, this base plate is adding actually a significant amount of height. So in order to maintain pressure, I'm going to remove the washers as well as probably, I think this came with another set of standoffs that were slightly lower. And if I can find those, I do believe I'll need them. That's something I forgot to prepare in advance. I don't remember if it came with a second set of standoffs though, or if it only came with these. Because if there's a shorter set, that would be great. This is the part of that song that's impossible to play. It's so hard. Coming up. While I hunt for these standoffs. Like all these octave jumps. It's ridiculous. Standoffs. Morpheus standoffs, where are you? Actually, you know what? I think it may have only come with these. I'll check the box quickly. As things bang around, I found some Corsair fan cables. I found some heat sinks. Alright, we have the Morpheus box. If there are any standoffs in here, that's cool. If not, we'll just have to confirm that there's enough contact on there. So this was Noctua parts. There's something in here. I thought I emptied it though. I did. It's just cardboard. All right, we'll go with the standoffs that came with it without the spacers then. Let's see where these are, where these line up. I believe it was the second position in, or was something wrong with it? Sorry. Oh, do you often? No, I never do that. Thank you for the question. No, the problem with this, there was nothing necessarily wrong with it other than this stock cooler having dents out of the box. It's just all the Vega stock coolers are miserable. They're just really loud and they do a really poor job of keeping it cool. So I bought this. This works great, but this is not designed to work with the base plate on Vega. So I didn't have the base plate. I had these little things mounted and I just couldn't get those to all fit on the components without bumping up against that. So some of the components were partially covered or not very covered, and those were becoming a problem thermally. So I decided to try and use the base plate to keep the thing cool overall, and then yeah, have air blowing down through this onto it. So step one is going to be to line up. Thank you for the question. I wish I was the kind of person that custom built graphic cards. That would be pretty cool. I'm This is more out of just necessity of not having a super loud, super hot card. Very much, yes. I would have gone NVIDIA this time, except the whole goal was Hackintosh, and there's no Mojave support for NVIDIA. So AMD was the only choice, and Vega 64 was the best. So I did that. I didn't want to, but it was my only option. Now that I'm switching to Windows anyway, it wouldn't really matter, but I've already come this far. So, you know, I'm going to make the best of it with what I've purchased. I'd already disassembled it partially, and I don't want to go through the hassle of returning it. So I want to make sure this makes contact with the die with the current height of the standoffs, and it is not looking great. No, that is not touching the die at all. So these are too tall. So I'm going to have to assume that, well, I do like distinctly recall a second set of standoffs. And since I don't see them in my pile of screws that have accumulated from this build, I'm going to have to hunt those down. Let's see what happens with no standoffs, but with this base plate as its own standoff. Is that not enough clearance? That is the wrong way around. So now we're definitely going to touch the die. The question is it high enough? And honestly, it might... No, it's not. Maybe I just didn't line it up correctly. We'll get this eventually. Let me try reattaching just a couple of these. I guess just a couple won't do it. I'm going to look in from the other side and make sure that these are properly aligned with these holes and not resting on there. And check the die one more time, because the worst thing we could do is have no contact with the die. I'm just reattach these guys. There we go. All right, I'm going to look at it very closely from under my view. Yep, that has it sort of hanging out above the die. So the only solution, I think, is going to be to hunt down those other things. But that's fine, because we're already coming up on half an hour, and I'm trying to make these videos more concise. So Baseplate is installed with thermal paste. The question as to will it work? Well, tentatively, yes, because there's very good contact, actually, between the paste and all of these components. So yeah, I think this was potentially an okay idea. Believe it or not, I think I could have used more paste, but it is fine. So yeah, with that, on the 30-minute mark, I'm going to head out and say, yes, the base plate is mounted. Base plate hopefully should work, theoretically. Lots of thermal pads, paste in there. The Morpheus will fit on top with the dremeled off blower. And now the challenge is to find standoffs that compensate for the added height of the base plate, so we're still making good contact with the core. Right as people start watching, of course. We hit this mark. So I'll have to schedule the next one so that people know when to show up. I just sort of hopped on right now. I'm not seeing any of the shorter standoffs that this came with. So yeah, guys, for this one, that's it. I'm going to go hunt for some standoffs. I'll come back when and if I find them, and we'll get this mounted and throw it in and make sure it works. So thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys